Knock that shit out.
Oh, that's right.
That was pretty good.
That was well
That was good.
Welcome back, listeners, to the Brighter Side of Blue, our worldwide podcast, taping, not live, from the Columbo's Cafe and Tavern in South St. Louis, brought to you by Campbell Group Security. You can reach them at campbellgroupsecurity.com.
All your security needs.
All your security needs.
Uh-huh.
I'm Danny.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
Producer John.
And Huggy in the house.
Huggy's in the house.
background,
Oh,
baby.
yeah. Time to acknowledge all the peeps that makes this show go on.
Yeah, we had a collective bargaining meeting, and Huggy and I got included at the end of it. So
Yeah.
That's a welcomed addition to the start of the show.
It is. I like how the negotiations went. You got a mic, but Huggy didn't. So Huggy has to yell from the back of the room.
he didn't negotiate that well.
That's all right. We heard him. Anyway, hey, we have some exciting little events planned for the Brighter Side of Blue on top of our webpage that's coming at you really quickly. We'll talk about that later. But we have some events coming up that people should know about.
June the 3rd.
June 3rd.
Where it'll be our first live event when I say live, we're inviting anybody that wants to come down, join us for the show. We'll have some interviews that night, and but one of the interviews that'll be played, we've already done the interview, and producer John and I interviewed Becky Smith, and Becky's a retired police officer, and she told a pretty powerful story about before coming on. She suffered a traumatic incident that was she was raped, and she battled through that and vowed to become a policeman to make a difference. And you hear that story, and it's a great story. And then the other one that we just got done interviewing was Joe McCullough, and so those are the two things that. So when you come down,
June 3rd.
if they come down on June the 3rd, they'll see some interviews that we've played, and we'll react to them. And we'll have fun, and we'll set up other shows. So it's going to be about 2 hours. We're going to start around 6 o'clock. So if you guys can come down and support the show, that's fun. And we'll have some fun and hang around afterwards. And
So 6 o'clock happy hour, June 3rd at the Columbo's Cafe and Tavern, Brighter Side of Blue studio. I didn't say that very well, but
Yep.
down here,
Down in the basement.
a live taping.
Yep.
All right, that's gonna be very fun.
I can't make it.
There's a few things going on in my life too that day.
Oh, can you tell us about them?
No.
He's still mad about that 1914 thing
No,
from
no,
last week.
Yeah,
He's
well,
still-
yeah,
he-
we haven't got there.
I got a lot of good feedback from people who actually enjoy that kind of stuff. So
What's that? Fragmented, nonsensical, stale-ass news?
Right.
Hey,
some
Where's
people,
Molden's
you
grandfather?
don't always hit home runs, John, but I think you're going to come back strong.
I think he is too.
He's probably
Just like your I'm possible.
Right.
You came back strong after that.
You got another
and
good
have
one.
been strong since.
Got another good one.
All right, we'll
Well,
take
we're
your
gonna
word
be-
for it.
We're going to be rolling tonight then.
They coming later. We have an interview with Jim Glennon, and Jim Glennon is the owner of Calibre Press, and Calibre Press is one of the premier training
Law enforcement
organizations.
training.
Exactly, and Jim's a great storyteller and tells how he got involved with Calibre Press and what we try, and we can say this later, but I'll say it now, is that when you're talking about training in police department, it can get a little policey at times, so we try to cut it into a, and we talk about some really neat issues, whether it's, I love the saying that control the inner idiot.
Yeah.
That's something that relates to everybody.
Absolutely.
Body
on a daily
language,
basis.
body language, how to read signs. Got into a little college campus riot stuff, current prosecutor issue stuff, and we're joined by Joe Speece in that interview. So Mary Michelle, drink up.
Yep.
So that's coming up later. And if you want to go right to that, we understand. Some people are just tuning in and hear their buddy Jim go. It's about 55 minutes, Jack, I think, 57 minutes. So go to wherever the 57-minute mark is and pick up Jim.
He's a great instructor and speaker. He's a
He was very good.
dynamite
He was very
Great
good.
storyteller, too.
to listen to.
Yeah.
Hey, for all of our listeners worldwide. I don't know what your weather-wise, what Mother Nature's doing to you, but Mother Nature here in the Lou, St. Lou, has been a little vicious. JJ, bear with me. We've had a recent terrible storm, tornadoes, hail, and everything. And so we were all tuned in prior to seeking shelter to the news, and the news had the Doppler radar going, and the meteorologist is doing a great job of explaining what's going on and what's coming our way. And he had to say, disregard this fingerprint on the radar. Although it looks like it could be a tornado, that's just cicadas being sucked up due to
Get
the
outta
wind.
here.
No, 100%.
Get the fuck out of here.
Hey, listen, dude, you came at us weak with some blind.
I still stand by that after watching
You can't
this.
stand by it. It's not true. They
I
have
watched
5
them
eyes.
last
They
week.
have 5 eyes.
They're blind.
God didn't give them 5 eyes to be blind.
They're
He- you know.
sensors, and they do light and dark, and then they have the other 3 eyes are like sensors.
Are we kidding me right now?
Yeah, are you serious about this right now?
No.
Anyway,
I'm just talking about the whole cicada thing.
Just
no,
watch 'em.
don't you start. It's serious. Steve Templeton on the news was saying that the cicadas were getting an actual Doppler radar fingerprint.
Yep.
That's how
good for them.
abundant they are.
You have the
Good for them
sleeves
little
rolled up.
bastards. Good.
They are. I mean, they're out there. They're real, and we're not even hit the peak yet.
They're
so-
annoying. It's all I'll say.
Right. Next thing you know, there'll be
And
tornadoes.
sometimes they're not bad. Sometimes they're soothing.
Hey,
Cricket sound.
so that's all I'll talk about the cicadas tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, cool.
I
They're
don't want to
blind.
get your listener Sally upset anymore. Hey, producer John, have we heard from our listener in Singapore since that airplane turbulence thing?
The listener is fine and back online and wants to hear more police stories from me. That's all
So
I
she
got.
hit her head well. Oh my
She's
God.
pretty hard, apparently.
She's concussed.
She's definitely messed up.
She woke up from hitting the overhead cargo bin, and she thinks she's in 1914.
Yeah, she was on her way to St. Louis when it happened, and she had to turn around because of the massive
Okay.
head injuries.
Okay, so she's better now. Singapore's better.
Yeah, we're all good there.
She's not coming in for a row. What was that called? John was calling it.
It's a
row
row.
was a fight.
Row.
I've never heard that one.
Row house.
That threw me off from the get-go. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
thinking like a row of housings, and
Yeah, I didn't know what he was going. It's all right. Hey, you know what? John was concussed. He was suffering some brain trauma that day, and
I'm gonna concuss your ass out.
I'm just glad that the Singapore listener is.
I bet you there's some followers, there are some listeners of ours that follow the St. Louis Police Department on Twitter.
Yeah.
And to look up on the screen here, this was the day after our last. So we're taping now on Thursdays still, Monday being our first one. But this happened on Friday, and the tweet from the St. Louis Police Department reads: earlier today, SLMPD officers cleared the abandoned St. Alexis Hospital. The city's building division then boarded it up. During the operation, a woman in her 20s was arrested on an outstanding warrant, and one officer suffered a minor injury while clearing the building.
I heard he's a really cool dude.
Now, who was it? I mean,
Who
I
was it,
hope they're
JJ?
okay.
You got
Can
any
you tell us
scoop
a
on
little
that,
bit about
JJ?
this?
Yeah, I got it. It was more than minor. I had a little slight vision loss in my right eye for a few days.
You did?
No,
Can,
but
can you pull your head up and show us?
Yeah,
This
show
injury?
everybody.
It was actually you.
shut up. Yes,
That's bright ass lights.
it was an accident, obviously. My unit,
Enlighten us.
my unit was asked as a favor to the captain to search St. Alexis Hospital because it's 5 big, huge buildings. It's run down. It's homeless people are staying there, but they wanted to. Somebody bought it, I think, and they boarded it up. They wanted to make sure no homeless people were in there, so they asked me and my unit to go there. So I decided.
Put your capes on and go in.
As it being a good commander, I decided I'd go with them, my guys.
Yeah.
And so the thing I screwed up is before we went in there, I talked about the exorcism that happened in 1949 there, which was
look
the
out now.
movie, the basis of the movie for The Exorcist that came out in 1973.
Was filmed there?
No, it's based on that story. They just changed it from a man to a woman in the movie The Exorcist. I know
Yeah.
y'all saw it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
Scary
loosely
shit.
based on that. So I knew that there was a room there that they closed down for many years. They sealed it off and not anybody would allow to
Uh-oh.
go in there. Yeah.
You're about
True-
to fuck
true
with a
story.
ghost?
So I mentioned that. I go up. I can use a flashlight. It's a mass. There's stuff everywhere. So I'm walking through. I go in this room. I'm not saying it was the room. I went in the room, and out of nowhere, this little pipe came from the ceiling and popped me right in between the eyes.
The pipe was not there when you walked in the room, and it's not there right now?
All I know is I went to the room, and I used my flashlight. It was dark, and this pipe came out of nowhere and cracked me right between the eyes. It was pretty serious, Dan.
So
I almost lost my eye.
it was a crack pipe.
Could have been it might have been a crack pipe.
And
But
what,
it
you got
split
some
me.
stitches there?
I did. I went to Barnes Care. I'd get a tetanus shot. They thought it was funny.
Oh.
Could-
You were in a hospital. You were in a lecture.
No,
Why
no.
didn't you just go down to
I
the
go-
fourth floor and
I-
get some stitches?
Yeah,
Have the ghost give you one.
I could have. But I needed a tetanus shot. And they were laughing. I heard the nurses talking. They said, when was his last tetanus shot? Well, I said, I think it was in 1996. Guys, remember that because I cut my hand real bad?
So you got another
It's-
tetanus shot?
Yeah. And then I heard the nurses laughing when they told the doctor. They're like laughing at me. I go, I can hear you. I'm right
What
here.
are they laughing about?
That my shot was 1996.
Oh, it's a long time ago.
It was a
I
long
guess.
time ago. So it was kind of.
Anything happened to you between then that they're like, hey, man, you should have got a tetanus
No,
shot?
I didn't. I hadn't cut my hand or anything since then. So.
Well, it looks like it
On
hurts,
metal.
and I feel for you.
The
Thanks.
tetanus shot could be a scam. Just saying.
No, conspiracy
Just
theories.
throwing it out there.
Maybe. But
Nothing happened from
the
1996
small world
to
that it is,
2024.
the
But
doctor.
rush down there and get one.
It's my story. Can I finish? The doctor that glued this back up,
Yeah?
she is married to Todd Leahy, who is a SWAT officer. And she never said who she was. And she was super cool. And then I found out later it was that she was. And she said something to Todd that I had my SWAT pin on.
Of course you
So-
did. We talk about that when we're
Well, it's
talking
in
about
my.
Joe McCullough.
It's on my lapel. It's why I wear. I earned it. But anyway, that's it.
True
That's all
that.
I
He
said.
did earn that. He
He earned
did
it.
But
earn
yeah, I
that.
think
Oh, we all
You're in
know.
that crack pipe in the
exorcism
nose,
came
too.
out and just cracked between the eyes. And it,
I call bullshit on that story.
well, I did.
I'm just saying.
I did run into a pole. No, I mean not
Here
a
we
pole.
go.
That wasn't
See?
a pole. I did run into something that was hanging down. It was hanging down.
It was
you have a
hanging
video
down.
when he was-
It didn't come from the ceiling. No, it was just hanging down.
No, it hung from the ceiling.
Didn't you find a video when he was young?
Yep.
Oh, this is so
Hey,
fun.
Johnny,
You guys are
throw that
fun.
video up. This is Jimmy when he was a young kid.
Well, this might have been me.
You might want to sit down. Are you okay?
I'm a lot better now.
You just ran your freaking head into this.
You're
thing.
pretty. Can I get your phone number?
And that is
Sure.
how Jimmy met Lisa.
Okay.
That's how it all started.
619.
That's how you met. And look at you now.
Yeah, that was just weird. I planned that whole thing out. Isn't that something? I was smooth. I was smooth.
Well, who was the 20-year-old girl that got locked up in the hospital?
She was just a homeless gal, and she had warrants, and I felt bad for her, actually. I don't want to get into it, but she was living on a couch inside the library. She had issues, though.
Library at the abandoned hospital?
Yeah.
Any books in there?
Actually, she was sitting on the couch and pretending to read one when we got there. We walked in.
Okay.
We got one more clip.
I told her she could take
Hold
it with
on.
her, and she didn't want it.
We got one more clip.
And I didn't lock her up
There's
either.
a thing called, hold on now, there's a thing called JJ walking. And here it goes. It's not jaywalking. This is JJ walking. You just walk in front of people and you're mad. You may walk into a pole. This is now JJ walking.
That has to be defined in a dictionary somewhere.
JJ walking?
JJ walking. Obviously, jaywalking is when you consciously walk diagonally across the street against the crosswalks and you're thinking about it and you just do it to save time. JJ walking is walking distracted
That could be,
and
but-
mad and
Like
walking
they're-
into a pole. That's JJ walking. It needs to be in the dictionary.
Like the car is inconveniencing the walker.
yeah, exactly.
So you gotta get a little, you throw a little honk out, walk into the, throw a
JJ
little,
walking.
What else we got, Tommy?
all right.
Well, you know what?
Oh, here's a good one. Hold on a
Okay,
second.
go ahead.
So JJ the other day, he gets home and he sends us a picture. And he has a little incident in his backyard. Tell us about that incident, JJ. I thought it was funny as hell.
No, I had probably 20 squirrels using my car as a jungle gym. They were under the tires. I mean, I never seen so many squirrels. I don't know what it was like. Some weird. I guess before the hurricane hit or the tornado hit the area
Yeah.
or something. It was weird. I ain't going any further, Tom.
So how did he deal with these squirrels that you heard?
There's a rumor I had a pellet gun.
Right, and he was mad. He got on there. He was like, "These squirrels aren't taking my car out."
For all those animal lovers, I did not hit it.
Well, we know that.
Right, he hit.
We-
But the cicadas
him-
were up there.
I just was doing
the
warning.
squirrels up in the tree,
I was doing warning shots.
and the cicadas are looking down, going, "Man, this is a little overkill, isn't it?" Come on, man.
I shot one warning shot at the nest.
Did you know squirrels could swim?
Uh-oh.
Not
Can
very
they?
well.
But they swim on their backs. You know why?
Why?
Keep their nuts dry.
You say I thought squirrels hated
Is that
water.
a joke or science?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I don't know. I just read it. We don't fact check around here.
That's right.
Cicadas are blind.
Well,
All right.
JJ, you're stressed out about the squirrels. It's time. You know what time it is.
Yes.
It's time to chill the hell out. Do you have a come strong with some good JJ's in because we're a little stressed.
Michelle needs to get ready to do a shot
Oh wow.
because she says a good Zen. That's part of her drinking game.
Okay.
Brighter side of the blue drinking game.
Just time decides who you meet in life. Your heart decides who you want in your life. Your behavior decides who stays in your life.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good once we got there.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
really good.
That was
Do it
pretty
again.
tight.
Let's get schmoove with it.
Time decides who you meet in your life.
Yeah.
Your heart decides who you want in your life.
Yeah.
Your behavior decides who stays in your life.
That's incredible. Who's that from?
I don't
That-
remember
that's
who
pretty
gave me that.
fucking
You remember
No.
who that came from?
I have no idea.
That's the queen of downtown, one of the law enforcement's biggest
no.
fan,
Right.
Cece.
She's awesome. She gave it to you, and you passed it on. I didn't want to give you credit. But
No, it's not me. Credit. I mean,
Cece came up with it, and I think she needs to send me more. She was awesome. That's a good one.
That was a good
very
one.
That was very, very, very good.
I think
She's
just the
sharp
bottom
mind.
line of that is don't be mad.
Yeah, don't be mad. Yeah, your behavior
Because
decides.
a lot of times when you're mad, that behavior is not acceptable.
That was unbelievable. What do you think about that one, producer John?
That was one of the best ones yet.
That was
I
very
like
good. It meant a lot. It really did.
Thank you, Cece.
Yeah. So hey, I'm really excited about the webpage.
That was pretty cool.
I mean, it's coming. Dean Rick was in earlier and giving us a run through our webpage before Jack and producer John give it the final approval. But it's going to be a game changer for us, and it's going to be a way for us to stay in contact with all of our listeners. It's going to be a way for our listeners to keep up to date, know current events, all the episodes, and support the podcast.
And we're going to start the Story Vault that's coming up.
Oh yeah.
And the Story Vault is what we're going to do is go back to some of our old episodes and take out just some of the stories. And we'll set them up a little bit, and rather than listen to us with all our shenanigans and talking about posses and whatnot, you can just go on to the Story Vault and grab those stories. You know, one of the things we want to do is Harry Hager talks about the Petties, and so does Jerry Layshock.
Yep.
We'll make that one little clip that go together.
Easy to find on the webpage.
Right. And
Story
then say,
Vault.
oh, that's
Boom.
a good one. I feel
Boom.
like laughing on my way to work. I'll listen to Sawyer throw a purse away.
Yep.
Stuff like that. And you can find that on that when we're coming out with that. And
thebrightersideofblue.com.
Good.
Yep, and
because
hopefully, but I don't think he's secured that. We just had our meeting.
Oh, that
No, we're good.
Jack might have to cut that.
We're
cut
good.
that stuff out, but it's coming to a theater near you.
Yeah, somebody will take it and charge us $50,000 for it.
We'll pay it, John.
We got it. We got it.
No, we
No, there's just a lot of neat stuff on there. We're going to have a photo section. We're going to have the episodes, ways to support the show. Our merchandise page will be on there, and different announcements, different things we're going to do, because we are going to do some shows coming up that are off, and then we keep talking about the mobile one, but we're putting that together. But moving studios and getting this thing kind of got in the way, and only one thing at a time, and let's nail this first, and then we'll keep moving on.
Well, I think the vault's good because there's a lot of stories that people. We got a lot more listeners now, so like they missed out on Tammy Sirocco. I thought that was great.
going back.
So they'll be able to watch.
No,
those.
and a lot of those stories are just short content, but you
Yeah.
don't want to go back to the episode and look through the episode to get to the story.
100.
Where you just say, that was a good one, and I'll
And
send
we'll
it to
have
everybody.
our the webpage will have Venmo QR codes,
Yep.
and so
Everybody
our
can help.
grassroots supporters can chime in for whatever, and keep this blue wave going from coast to coast. Right, the blue wave.
There you go. Drink
Mary
up, Mary
drink
Michelle.
up. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be good. And they'll also find our sponsor liaison RDB's information on there
Yes.
and moving us forward there.
RDB is going to deal with any businesses that want to sponsor the show and help us out there, but there'll also be a place on there for individual help that, again, all this costs money, and we're going to do more. We're going to start taking producer John bought some new equipment, which will allow us to
more used equipment from Jack that Jack didn't want, that didn't work and was out of
Actually,
warranty.
he bought this stuff new. He just taken it out of the box. John, you bought some good stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, it's an audio booster for the camera. So, Jack can't follow us around everywhere we go, and we're going to be doing a lot of on the street stuff. So we're just improving our, our equipment. Jack has just bought a bunch of new equipment too. That this will be the first show that people will see. These cameras are all upgrades from what we had before.
Wow.
So
Jack's
here we
moving
go,
on.
baby.
Well, everything's happening.
Come on now.
Jack will be in Hollywood pretty soon.
Take us with you, Jack. We're ready.
Hey, is this we're on Jack right now?
Yeah.
I saw a change in Jack today.
Uh-oh.
What happened?
He ordered a burger with a bun
Yeah?
instead of broccoli. He got fries.
Oh.
And he asked for ketchup.
And he got cheese on it
I
too.
think he found a gal, and he's going to be fat and happy now.
What's going on?
Right.
I don't know.
He's finally out. He's got a gal and says, "I'll screw it. I'll
I
stop
like you.
working
I
out."
like you, which however you look. So
Jack,
do you-
thank you, God. And he's
Jack, do you need a huggy? Oh, you're good, huh?
I love it.
how good was the burger with the bun and the fries? And actually, I think
It's called food.
he might have had a beverage.
You
too.
must eat. Yeah, that's good.
I think he's over there eating some of our pizza.
Hey, there's a lot of pressure on producer John today because nobody knows what was going on in his head last week when he had that seizure during the newsroom.com. And so we're hoping that he bounces back strong and he remains focused and gets her
He got a
done.
lot of support, dude.
He did?
Yeah.
Do you have a news?
No.
He did? He got support?
Be careful.
He's got a
Producer John's got people. He's
he's
got a
got a-
Are you
posse. He
serious?
got a posse too. He got a posse.
There's a lot of people who gave me support last week.
Pity posse?
Or-
Pity posse.
Could have been, or I might have dreamed it. But I do remember some support of some sort. So I know everybody was on to my right. It was annoyed with my long story last week, and I thought it was pretty fascinating, and it was kind of a look into the past. But I found an article. I've been searching all day for a short article, so I found the shortest article I could find to make up for that lost time you guys lost last week. So it's from May 30th, 1972, titled "Bank Clearings." Singlest bank clearings for May 30th were $195 million compared to $234 million a year ago. Period. So you guys get your time back now, and you can talk about whatever you want. And going into next week, I feel like we're all even.
Is that possible?
I don't know.
The bank. What's a bank clearing? That's what the bank's made, or what's going on?
That's how much money they cleared.
Can you read that again?
One second.
I didn't get it.
St. Louis bank clearings for May 30th were $195 million compared to $234 million a year ago. I have no idea what that means, but it was short, and you guys just made it longer by asking me a bunch of freaky questions about
I
it.
thought I think it was your best one.
We're good. I'll find a shorter one next week. You guys are dicks.
Now you know how I feel, buddy.
All right, producer
So
John.
hold on a second though.
Do you have a newsroom.com, or is that it for
That's
this?
it, man.
That's
I'm
it.
Hold on now. I'm going to make
Are
it
you
up for
going on
producer
strike?
John.
I'm still
No,
reeling.
he's still pissed.
He's pissed off. Is
Nah.
this?
I'm gonna go over and get a piece of pizza right now.
What do we got coming on?
Jim Glennon.
Yep.
And Jim Glennon, again, he's the owner of Calibre Press. He tells you how he got there and have a great conversation. And Jim's, like I said, he's a great storyteller. Wish we could have him on, and we are going to have him on more when certain incidents break and we need somebody that's got a lot of knowledge
To
that,
break it on down.
not on police departments like JJ.
Yeah.
So we can call Jim.
All right.
All right. So
And,
let's
yeah,
take a listen to Jim, and don't forget about June 3rd,
June 3rd we're coming up. and
Columbo's
yes.
Cafe and Tavern.
All right.
Have it.
Peace out.
Enjoy. Okay, we're back to the brighter side of blue, and we'd like to welcome Lieutenant Jim Glennon, former Chicago PD, and now the owner of the elite law enforcement training company, Calibre Press. Welcome, Jim.
Well, thank you for having me. I have to correct you already, though. I wasn't a Chicago cop. My dad was a Chicago cop, and his dad was a Chicago cop.
Well, I knew your dad well, and I get that all blended up. I get that mixed up a little bit. Me and him were rode together in a lot of years, so we had that. I kind of just blended that together. So sorry about that.
There you go.
But we have with us, thanks for showing up for the show, Chief Spees, a huge advocate of your company and law enforcement training. So welcome back, Chief Spees.
Thank you, Daniel.
And hey, just tell us how it got all started with you and Calibre Press.
Well, you got to go back a little bit, but like you said, about Chicago, my dad was a cop there, and his dad was a cop there. So I went to college, got a degree in psychology, and I wanted to become a cop in Chicago, but they weren't hiring at the time. And it was right out of college, and a girl I was dating picked up an application from a town right outside of Chicago. 45,000 people, 11 miles outside. It's one of the 500 towns around Chicago.
Yeah.
And
gotcha.
so I got involved in that. I got with them with the intention of going someplace else. I actually had a chance to go to the Secret Service. But my third year on, they made me a detective. And I decided to stay, and I'm really glad I did. Really glad I did. So then I hated, I'll tell you something, I hated the police academy I went to. And I always make this joke, and I mean it, though. It's not being humble. I was number one in my academy, not because I'm so smart, because there were so many idiots in that group. There were a whole lot of, I hope none of them are listening. There was a whole lot of political appointees in there. And then you get into the job. And my first FTO, who I loved him to death. He was a great guy. But he was my FTO only because it was his turn. And training.
Field training officer for those listening in Singapore.
Yeah, field training officer.
Yeah.
And Roger told me, he said to me my first day with him, he says, I'm not a very good cop, but it was my turn to take the next step.
That's encouraging.
That's cool. Okay, let's saddle up.
Yeah.
This is going good.
Yeah. But Roger did a really good job, and I liked him, and I had some really good training officers. But immediately I recognized we had no intermediate weapons. We were doing absolutely no defensive tactics. The only thing they were doing that was ahead of the curve is we shot every month. But even when we shot every month, it was just go into range, take your coat off, wait for your target to face you. That was basically it.
Yeah.
So I started being an absolute pain in the ass. I got into martial arts. When I was younger, I boxed a little bit, played football, and an athlete, not a good one by any stretch, but I recognized we're just all winging it out there. So when I made sergeant, I think my 10th year on, they finally said to me, all right, listen, if you want to do it, do it. But we had nobody in charge of it. So I took it, and they gave me carte blanche. And I was in charge of it the rest of my career, basically.
Of the training.
Yeah. Well, I was in charge. Yeah, kind of. I wasn't always the training director, but the training director in our department was just a commander, and that was one of his or her many jobs. But I was able to bring in the defensive tactics, all the intermediate weapons, brought those in. And it was just, it was something I really thought we needed to do. So eventually I started teaching defensive tactics outside of the agency, and I started teaching at the police academy. And what I was really, the only thing I always use the same joke, but the only thing I brag about is I was really, really good at getting confessions from people. I was doing it while I was still in the FTO process, and I could spot who was lying and get them to confess. I had a psychology background, but I also had read body language books, and my instincts were pretty good. So eventually I just really started to hone that down, became a hostage negotiator, and I was asked to start teaching that stuff. So I taught body language and interview and interrogation, things like that. Then I got my master's degree, and I started teaching for Northwestern University because I went to that staff and command. And somebody in 2001 saw me teach staff and command for Northwestern University. from Calibre Press, and they asked me, "Would you like to come on and teach street survival?" And I almost jumped out of my shoes because that was my goal. I mean, when I was a sergeant, I remember, right, not even a sergeant, but when I was in the 1980s, we used to get. You guys are all too young to remember this probably, but we used to get survival selections from Calibre Press, and they had like product you could buy in there because there was no competition, so everybody was buying this stuff. And then in the back page, they had the 25 places they did street survival around the country, and that's the only class they had. So I jumped at the chance, and I stopped doing everything else. And then during this time, my wife got a job with them. And then her role expanded. Then she hired my sister. And so then when I retired in 2009 or 10, around that time, by a fluke, we had a chance to buy Calibre Press. And my wife really wanted to do it. My sister wanted to do it. My wife's sister was now involved in our little company that we had on the side. And I put my foot down. I said, no, we're not doing it. I've been a boss for the last 19 years. Don't want to be boss. All I want to do is teach once a month, and wait to die. I mean, that's basically all I wanted to do. And so I said, you're not going to change my mind. So, we bought Calibre Press because nobody pays attention to me.
Exactly.
And my wife had this vision, and she brought it to Calibre Press, and they said, no, we don't want to do that. So she left Calibre Press to start this other company. And 18 months later, after she started this other company, we bought Calibre Press.
Wow.
So,
Hey, Jim, I got a question. I got a question for you. I took your class twice now, and I actually stole a line, I believe, from you. And I teach CCW classes to civilians, and the one that I taught was I give you full credit though, I must say that, about the use of the F word that you explained once in one of your classes. And then I got a body language question I want to talk to you about. I think I found that interesting that you brought that up already. So if you can just tell us the story about the using the F word, if you.
the F bomb, yeah. What really happened in that is I rewrote the use of force policies 3 times, and I don't know if you guys know Jeff Chudwin. He's on the Illinois side, lawyer, also a tactical. He was in charge. He was Illinois Tactical Officers Association president, chief of police. Just brilliant guy, Jeff is. And he helped me write these things. And I got to part of the policy we had that said you can never use obscene, profane, or squalid language towards any person for any reason. And I said, well, that's stupid. And it just so happened around that time, when I was talking to my chief about it, one of my guys stopped somebody, and the guy got out with a knife and acting up. And my guy pulled his gun at him and said, get on your knees or I'll blow your fucking head off. And I'm sure he said it really well. The guy dropped the knife. Backup came, handcuffed the guy. Nobody got hurt.
Right.
So I went to the chief. And nobody actually complained about it, but I think I used that example, and I went to him and said, here's why I said, John, I think I'm making up who did it, but I said, John said, get on your fucking knees, or I'll blow your fucking head off. And he goes, yeah, so I don't care. I said, I know you don't care, but we have a policy that says you can't use it. And he goes, oh. I said, we don't need it. We have a policy that says you treat the majority of people with dignity and respect, but dropping a well-placed profanity. Now, if you pull some old lady over and say, hey, let me see your fucking license, bitch, that's out of bounds.
Yeah.
But I told him, I said, he said, we have to have something that says you can't swear. I said, no, we have to have a policy that says you can't, you have to, treat people with respect, but we have to have these exceptions. And he was a good guy. He goes, all right. He goes, take it out.
I love
Change it. Yeah.
I also, I've been doing this class for 10 years, and I always talk about body language and how you carry yourself and how not to look like a victim, and that predators are expert at body language. Like a good policeman becomes an expert at body language. And now I'm still on, and there's such violence now in these cities, more so than ever before, I think. And I wonder, when I tell these classes about using your body language, look confident, and I go through a little spiel. Do you think right now? I'm wondering if that's even something I should teach anymore, because do these kids even care about body language now? These young thugs, and the lack of a better word, they don't care who they rob it. But I still teach the body language, looking confident, know your surrounding kind of stuff.
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah. You have sociopaths out there that just don't care about human life. I mean, you're going to run across that. We have 2 courses. We have about 25 different courses now. One of them is called Reading People, and it's a full day of reading body language, pre-attack indicators, deceptive behavior. We show a lot of video. But we also talk about having a command presence and how you do that. In another course we have, we just launched it. We kind of relaunched it and with a new name, and it's called Teaching Rookie Cops How to Talk. And it's exploding. It's exploding.
Really?
It's unbelievably popular right now. And in it, we talk about these things and how these are destroying. So if you guys think about it, Chief especially, what's the average age people coming into law enforcement right now were born? I mean, what year would you guess?
Oh,
98?
Yeah.
Probably,
Yeah.
around that.
Yeah, 98,
No.
99. I mean, I'm talking to kids in classes that were born after 9/11.
That's crazy.
So, and what happens is the average kid in the United States now is getting these at about 10 years old.
And Lieutenant's holding up a phone for those listening,
Yeah.
not
The
watching.
thing that bothers me is that these kids now, and I get on my guys. If I see them on the phone driving, they drive by me, or one of them's on their phone, it just irates me. And so half these partners, they're driving 2-man, they're lucky enough to have a partner. The partner spends half the time on his phone. I tell him, you better tell your partner to get his head out of the phone. So cell phones are the worst thing ever happened to policing, I think.
I think one of the things that a lot of our listeners aren't police officers, and when you're talking about training, a lot of the training that police officers do is can help you out in real life. It's just that we train for a more intense situation, where and from that you've come up with or I heard a great saying that you use a lot, and that saying is the body will not go where the mind has never been. So unless you do then these trainings, it's really hard to do things right. Correct?
Yes, and I'll tell you something. That came from a student probably 25 years ago. I was kind of talking about that kind of thing, but he came up and he gave me that, and I said, I'm going to write it down. I lost to history his name, but it's perfect, because just think about this. If I said to you 7 days from now, you need to make a free throw, and if you don't make the free throw, we're going to shoot you in the head. And you've never seen a basketball or a basketball net or a basketball court in your life.
I think I
What are
played for
you
that,
going to do
Coach.
for the next 7 days? You're going to practice for the next 7 days, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And there was an experiment done years ago with people who had never seen basketball. It was from another country. And when they said, okay, you got to get the ball in the basket, and they put them on a free throw line, 100% of the people who tried to put the ball in the basket, how do you think they threw it?
Underhand.
It was the underhand thing, right? That's the more natural way you would think about it. In fact, if you go all the way back, if you see film from 1930s, 1940s college basketball games, that's how they did free throws.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So the point is, but it was proven later on that's not the best way to do that free throw. And that comes from experience. So with police officers, one of the quotes we have now is that mistakes made by police officers aren't from a lack of skill and innate judgment. They're due to a lack of ability to handle, make decisions in pivotal and stressful moments. And that's very true. I've said forever, I've said this for a very, very long time. When people argue about the problems in law enforcement, what you always hear is this: systemic violence, systemic racism. We train like warriors, and that's complete and utter nonsense. First off, there's 18,200 different law enforcement agencies, and there's about 1 million police officers, depending on how you identify them. They're not all the same. I mean, my department's not the same as NYPD. So we just throw this broad brush, or we paint this broad brush across the entire profession and say it's bad. And based on no real true statistics that indicate the profession has that problem. So what I say, and I've debated people about this in classes and at seminars, that to me, if you're looking for any systemic issues in law enforcement, they have to be fixed. It's two things. One, leadership. We have to have solid leaders, not supervisors, not people who pass the test. We have to have
Right.
freaking
100%.
leaders. And we need to start sending these guys, gals, and I use guys for everything. Before they become bosses, send them to leadership classes. Make them read some leadership books. Teach them this kind of stuff. And number two, the next biggest issue we have is training. We train terribly in law enforcement. We don't prepare these guys. So let me just take you one step back for a second. So now we got all these kids born in 1998, 99, 2000, 2001 are now becoming police officers. They get cell phones at the age of 10 to 12.
Yeah.
So basically at the time you were learning independence and social skills away from your parents. You remember when we were kids, we would literally walk out the door on a Saturday morning, and I'll ask you, I do it in every class. We would get up, eat some tricks, shove some Cocoa Puffs down our throat, watch some Wile E. Coyote, Bugs Bunny cartoons, right? And then we would go
on a Saturday morning now.
Tom still does.
I still do that.
Yeah, right. But then we would go to a magical place. Where would we go?
Creek.
Outside.
Yeah, outside.
Right.
Forever.
Schoolyard.
Till the street lights came on.
Wiffle ball.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Buzz
So
ball.
you left at 8, 9, 10, 12 years old,
Whooping
and you
your
were gone
ass.
for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours. And your parents had no idea where you were at.
100%.
And there was no way to contact your parents.
No.
So we would go out there, and we had to be self-sufficient. We made up games, which meant we made up rules, and then we had conflict, but we had personal interaction face to face. And then the subconscious part of our brain is picking up all this data and filing away, blah 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 blah. Right. Well, now we're hiring a bunch of people that get these phones at an early age, and they're completely dependent on it. I was just talking to somebody who ran an academy, and they said you cannot bring your phone into the academy. You got to leave them in the car. They had a bunch of kids quit. A bunch of recruits quit.
Good.
It's sad. It is so.
Well, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
what does that say
Reality.
about society? So
Oh,
and then when I don't know, you guys remember when you first become a cop, you get a map, and then your FTO is I'm at home reading the map and trying to study the map of the town, and then you get in the car the next day, and your boss will go, all right, somebody's being murdered at Ashen, Maine, go. And then you're sweating trying to get there. Well, now I hear this all over the country. If the computers go down, they got cops that know how to get around town.
Yeah. It was
So-
funny earlier when you were talking about the two biggest problems, which is leadership and training. We all kind of looked at each other and we kind of giggled, and because we talk about that so often.
Yeah.
And one of the other things you talk about in just about all the training that you do, and it's kind of the core of your training, is communication, and how to listen to people, and how to take clues from listening to people, and like JJ said a little earlier with the little body language, and you came up with an interesting little quip that I find very interesting during your communication seminar. And just tell us a little bit about communication.
What's the quip?
Yeah, do you know the quip?
Oh.
Yeah, what's the quip?
Oh, it was control your inner idiot.
Idiot. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is one of my favorite, and I think we might be making a T-shirt on that. Luke.
Yeah, I'll tell
Control
you
your
something.
inner
I
idiot.
wrote a book that came out 15 years ago called Arresting Communication. And in it, I have the 4 truths of the human animal, and the 4th one is contain the idiot. And the idiot is what if Freud would say the id. That's the childlike part of your personality that doesn't care about consequences. If it wants it, it wants it. It's the screaming baby, part of your brain. We've expanded on that a lot, especially with de-escalation and everything. And when I just taught at the Ohio State Police Academy the other day, all bosses though. And I showed probably 30 video clips of police officers making bad tactical decisions, I'll say. And I say two commonalities, at least two commonalities in all these videos. One, almost all the videos in these events happen in high frequency, low risk calls, like check on well-being. and winds up somebody getting killed or somebody getting beaten by the police. And the other one is that almost all of the stress that was brought into the situation was brought by the police officer. You know, they allow this stress to get to them. So you have the prefrontal cortex, which is what makes us human. You know, think of it like right behind your forehead, and that's what makes us human, where we process things. Then you got the limbic system, the hypothalamus, that is the fight or flight part, the reptilian part of your brain. The more that kicks in, the more the reptilian part of your brain, you know, the Neanderthal part of your brain kicks in, the less the cognitive part of your brain is going to work. So it's like a seesaw. When one side goes up, the other one goes down. And that police officers have to learn how to contain that inner idiot, or nothing can be accomplished. And if you think about it, the job is completely human behavior. It's completely human behavior. That's exactly what the job is. The only reason we exist is because of another human being's behavior. Right. So we should be experts in human behavior. And you don't need a psychology degree. I learned more. I honest to God, I've said this 1,000 times. I had a 4-year degree in psychology, but I also bartended for 3.5 years when I was in college. I learned more about psychology behind a bar than I did sitting in a classroom.
Hey, Jim, I hate to interrupt, but
you're going to do it anyway.
At that, yeah. Now you travel the country. Yeah, I do. You travel the country doing training through all over every state or whatever. Now that you see the manpower is low on all these everywhere you go now, what's the toll on that for training? Are we doing less training now because it's hard to send guys somewhere for training because we don't have enough to cover our street calls? So I guess you're seeing that everywhere. And how do you overcome that?
You know, it's interesting because we in late February 2020, we had a meeting. We have about 15 full-time employees, and of the 15 of them, like 11 of them are related to me. It's just hell. But yeah. But we had a meeting. We hired a CEO right before that about expanding the company. And in 2019, we did about 230 in-person classes. 2 weeks after we had this meeting talking about getting more instructors and more salespeople because it was going so well, COVID hit. And so a month after that, we're getting PPP loans, trying to hang on to staff, and everybody's freaking out. And you remember that time, man, the first couple of months, nobody knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah. Right.
We had no idea how long this was going to last. You know, they said, "Oh, give us 2 weeks," and it just kept going. What changed it was George Floyd. The day that happened, I'm laying in my bed in the morning, and I have in my cell phone, like everybody else, you have text change, and I got a whole bunch of my instructors, about 8, 9, 10 of them are on the same text chain. We're all just always screwing around in there, but serious things happen too. And I remember, and I wrote an article that night about it. I sat up in my bed, 7:30 in the morning or whatever the hell time this thing came out, when they released the video. And I said, "Get the fuck off his neck." And my wife is in the bedroom and she looks at me, she goes, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I don't know what this is. This is going to be bad." But so we had a meeting. I wrote the article that day. It went out, got a lot of hits. And the next day I said, "Let's get ready for phone calls." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're going to get phone calls from de-escalation, implicit bias, leadership right away." And my daughter luckily had a degree in broadcast communications. She was an award winner. And we already started to get ready to do the online stuff. And honest to God, right away, the phone started ringing. So we did, for the better part of the rest of that year, online live. And then we started to, and we're a private business, so we're always looking ahead. And we started to record them. So we would fly our instructors in, stand in front of a green screen, do the entire program. And now we rent programs like we're Amazon. So so a lot of people in the training business, in and outside of law enforcement, said, including a couple of my sons who are in business, said, "Oh, the in-person classes are never going to come back. They're all going to be Zoom. They're all going to be online."
They originally told us we couldn't high five for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, right. Right. No more shaking hands,
Yeah.
But in 2003, we were back to doing about 230 in person plus about 120 online live.
Jim,
Yeah.
can I ask you if you can? This is lighten it up a little bit. Have a story that you have, if you
Sure.
remember it, and if you were a lieutenant at the time. I think you told us at the class, and I think you were in like an apartment complex in a hallway, and some guy was shooting through the door, and you had do you remember this story? And you were there, and you had to yell at your officer to do something. You remember that?
Yeah, that's not that lighthearted. It's just one of my guys got shot.
No, I mean, but it was funny. It was great how you go ahead. I'm sorry. Tell that if you can tell that story.
Yeah, no. The point of it was weird too. When I was a lieutenant, and one of my brand new guys, he's on 2 weeks. Joey, a great guy. He's a sergeant now, and Joey's walking down the hallway after roll call. We're 3 to 11 shift, and I got a couple of sergeants working, and I was in roll call, and Joey sees me in the hallway, and he goes, "Hey, LT, I just got this shoplifting call." And I remember thinking, isn't that cute how excited he is about a shoplifting call?
That's a new police.
We have a big mall in our town. It's like one of the biggest in the Midwest and all that. And he just happens to tell me, he goes, the guy walked in, grabbed a bottle of vodka off the top shelf and started to walk out with it. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. But I got his license number, so I'm going to go down to the apartment complex by the mall and see if I can find his car. And I look at him, and he's an ex-professional hockey player. He's a big guy. And I said, listen, if you find a car, call backup. Be careful of this guy. And he goes, oh, no, I got a CQH right here. He's 57 years old. Like, he should be dead by now anyway, And he has only one arrest, and it was last year, same day, shoplifting and DUI. So the thing about this is, you were talking about communication, when I said the idiot factor. The first of the 4 truths is people are in a constant state of communication. There's all this information in front of you if you just pay attention to it. And I wish I said this to him at the moment, but when I tell the story, what was the first thing that caught my attention was that the guy just grabbed the bottle and started to walk out with it, because what do most shoplifters do? They hide it, right? So what does that tell you about the guy? He doesn't care. And then he got arrested a year ago for shoplifting and DUI on the same day, which means he's probably drunk again. So we went down there. I happened to be on the street. I literally went over to a 7-Eleven to get a Diet Coke. And I heard he had the car. And I said, get him a backup. I'm going to come down. And when I get there, the backup, who's on 13 years, he looks at me and goes, what the hell are you doing here? It was, I showed up on stuff, but not little shoplifts. And I go, man, there's something wrong with this guy. And we went up the 6 floors, walked down the hallway. And Joey's on the young guy's on the other side of the door. He beats the door with his baton. And Jerry and I literally started to giggle because he's so excited. He's beating the shit out of this door. Mr. Grant, come on out. It's the police, And then Jerry and I are on the other side. And Jerry grabs a little knocker that's about 2 inches big, and he knocks on the door. And I said, oh, that'll get him. So we're taking this kind of lightheartedly,
Yeah.
And then I step in front of Jerry. I go, maybe it needs a lieutenant's knock. And I hit the door one time. And all I said is, hey, Paul, if you don't come out, we're going to tow your car. This is a bluff, right? Nothing. So I'm just looking at Joey, who's across the doorway. We're still hugging the wall. I'm just about to say, get a warrant for his arrest when the door opened up, and I see the snub nose come out, and he just starts firing, right? So I see it, and I yell, oh, shit, gun. And I move, and I start pulling my gun out, and he misses me, and he hits Jerry behind me. And Jerry got hit in the shoulder and actually put him out of law enforcement because it destroyed his radial nerve in his arm. He fires the 5 shots. I turn around, see Jerry go down. I'm still hearing the shots. So I go to grab Jerry to get him out of there. And I remember thinking, this guy, that seems like a lot of shots for a snub-nosed revolver, that's what's going through my mind. It didn't enter my mind that Joey on the other side of the door just started firing. Now he's on 2 weeks by himself. So he fires, I think, 7 rounds just into the wall, and he moves down to the other end of the hallway. I get Jerry up, and I go down about 60 feet to that end of the hallway. And I'm calling, SWAT and all this kind of stuff, and for an ambulance for Jerry and all that. And I see Joey at the end in an apartment just sticking out. He's like in a
Low ready?
The shooting stance.
Low ready?
No, he's up. What do we call that? A weaver stance. He's in a weaver stance.
Oh,
and I can see him, and he says, "Hey, are you guys all right?" And I yell back at him instead of using the radio like an idiot. And then I said, "SWAT's coming, just stay there, be cool." And then the guy sticks his hand out and he screams, "Come on back, I'll kill all you motherfuckers." And I'm literally I'm aiming to shoot the gun out of his hand because that's all I can see is his arm. But from my perspective, and my depth perception was completely off, I look at Joey, who's really only about 20 feet from him. I'm like 60 feet. And I think Joey's got a shot. So I scream to Joey. I go, "Joey, shoot him." And nothing. I don't see any movement from Joe, no response from Joe. So I figured I wasn't loud or profane enough, right? So I screamed something like, "Shoot that guy." Fuck, I start screaming at him. Absolutely nothing. So I took a big deep breath. I stood up and I peeked around the corner and I literally said this. I remember it to this day. I testified at court. I go, "Joey, this is your lieutenant. This is an order. Shoot that motherfucker now." And Joey just moves with 2 rounds. He fires 2 rounds. And the guy doesn't even know Joey's there. He doesn't know where the shots came from. So he just throws the gun out and gives up, right? Okay. So later on in the hospital, we're all in the hospital for, all that stuff. And Joey, young kid, is kind of going a little nuts in his room. And somebody came and got me and says, "You got to go talk to Joey." And so Joey said something to the effect of, "I fucked up. And I said, "Joey, first piece of advice, after a shooting, never scream, 'I fucked up.'" Don't say it.
Quoted.
And I said to him, I go, what are you upset about? You ended this fight. And he goes, "I couldn't shoot when you told me to shoot." And I said, "You heard me yell shoot?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Why didn't you?" He goes, "I don't know." I go, "Why did you finally shoot?" He said, "You ordered me to." Now think about this. The first time when the guy sticks his gun out, Joey just in instinct pulls the gun out and just fires 7 rounds in the direction of this guy, right? But when I said, "This is your lieutenant, shoot," how many rounds does he fire? 2. What did he do with his gun after he fired the second round? He holstered it. Now he said he put it in his holster and he pulled it right back out, right? Like he goes bang, bang, holster out, And he goes, "I'm so stupid. Why did I put my gun away?" And I go, "Why'd you fire 2 shots?" He goes, "I don't know." I go, "What were you aiming for?" He goes, "I have no idea." So the point of that story is this: under instinct, he just starts firing like he should fire right at the guy. But the second time, all he could see is his arm. So when I'm yelling at him, "Shoot," he's getting an error message in his head because he just got out of the academy, right? What is he trained to shoot at? What do we train cops to shoot at? Center mass. What can't he see? So he's getting error message. And he finally fired because I told him to shoot. I go, "What were you aiming at?" He goes, "I have no idea." But what he was aiming at was the guy's arm. So, that comes back to training. You know what I mean? Right. Fire 2 rounds, decock, put it back, fight. That's what he did in the academy, right? Because they just want to make sure you know how to do that without shooting yourself in the leg. So boom, boom, under stress. There's another quote we use a lot that Remsburg put in the first book, which is, "Under stress in a crisis, you instinctively revert to the way you train." So once he was in that Weaver position for a long time, and I go, "This is your lieutenant, shoot." He goes, "Okay," bang, bang, he puts his gun away.
Hey, Jim, can I ask you, as you look at training throughout the country, you do command training. What's your feel from the commanders that you're talking to? Because I think there's been a void. If you really look at the ways that officers have gotten in trouble, gotten indicted, gotten killed, specifically, you can look at training events for the cause of why they're making their mistakes. You're quoted in one of your articles I read today about what the role of leadership is about training events in police departments and the lack of it. Do you see a change in that dynamic at all? especially with larger departments and how they're training their officers?
No,
Or are they just laissez-faire like they've always been?
it's the opposite. I mean, I'm not saying there's not some big departments that are doing pretty good training, but I'll tell you right now, my nephew was on Chicago for 4 years and he loved it, and he left and went to a suburban department. A lot has to do with the politics in Chicago, but he called me about 6 months ago and he said to me, "Hey, my sergeant," he actually texted me. He said, "My sergeant asked me a question. I don't know how to answer it. Can you call me?" I said, "Sure." So I called him and I said, "What's the question?" The question from his sergeant was, "What kind of training do you want?" He said, "In Chicago, we got no tactical training.
Right.
Almost all the training we had was the PC DEI type training, and almost none of it was practical."
A lot of
Now
it
where
is
he's at-
online.
Pardon me?
A lot of departments are relying on online training, and it could be
Yep.
DEI training, it could be racial profiling stuff. If it fulfills their requirement, it seems like the leadership in a lot of departments are satisfied with that, and they might
Well,
send
that's
them
check
twice
the
a
box
year.
training.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I mean, a lot of command, and too many of them, and they all have excuses. I mean, they all have excuses, but too many of them just, whatever the state mandate is, we'll do the absolute bare minimum.
Well, it's manpower. They always blame everything on manpower, and we are definitely hurting for manpower.
Yeah.
So, what's the answer? I mean, that's a crazy question, but how do we retain officers nowadays? That we have the same thing. We have officers come to the city, they get a couple years in, and they go hightail it out to some munis.
Yeah.
Like the guy to my left now, but it's just how do we retain them? How do you have it? And that's $1 million question, I guess.
We have one of our most popular classes called recruitment and retention, but this is really all new. And like one of the towns by us offered $20,000 to a lateral transfer, and that blew up in their face because all the police officers staying there are going, "Wait a minute, what are you giving me for staying,
right,
and not leaving?" But I've been saying this for a long time. I think we have to rethink how we do law enforcement. I mean, I don't believe we need to go on all the calls we go on. I think we can handle them in different ways. I like community service officers who can, handle calls that, don't really require a law enforcement response. I do agree with, to some level, I'm not naive with social workers doing some of the, some things, but that's not the answer to everything. So first off, social workers can't go in when something is hot. They won't go in. Anyway, but I think what we really should do is pay our cops a lot more, train them a lot more. But that means the politicians who are constantly ripping their own police, need to invest, and they won't do it. They're unbelievably short-sighted.
Are you fully staffed?
We are, yes, mainly with prior St. Louis policemen.
He steals them all, Jim. He's went out there and we want to go work for Speece.
Well, I always give him trouble. I send any copper that leaves the city, goes to a small muni. When they tell somebody what they do for a living, the first thing, and they say they're law enforcement, the first thing they ask where they're at. They say, I won't say his department, whatever small muni they're in. And their first answer after that, or first response after that, "Well, I used to be a city policeman." I used to be a city policeman. They gotta get the credibility factor. But I think if you want to be the police, you need to do it in the city.
Here we go again. He's just determined. Bound and determined.
I'll tell you something. The first time we did, and I'm not going to say the name of the city, but it's a major Midwest city that had a major incident a few years ago. And before that incident, we were doing the recruitment retention class there. And what we teach in the recruitment retention class, I mean, we show, marketing videos, recruitment videos, and all that kind of stuff. But really the foundation of that class is you got to sell your culture. You got to sell your lifestyle. And that's only going to work if the people in your agency like working for that agency, which means it comes down to bosses making a conscious decision to create a culture that it makes police officers want to come to work and retain that job for 20, 30 years. So we did this 2-day course. Gordon Graham was part of it. And there were 3 recruit officers in the front table from this major city in the Midwest, upper Midwest, that had this major issue about May of 2020. And at the end of it, we had a big discussion and all that. I looked at these 3 guys who had taken a lot of notes. And I said, what do you guys think of the course? Said it right in front of everybody. And they go, this is great. All the stuff you're saying is great. I said, good. I said, now let me ask you this question. If you do all this, you get recruitment videos out there, you go to these places, you use social media, and a 25-year-old young person walks up to just an average police officer from your city standing on the corner downtown and said, I'm thinking of joining your police department. I couldn't get that question out before all 3 of them broke out laughing. And they all said the same thing. There's not one person in this major metropolitan police department that would recommend somebody work here.
Yeah.
I can go one further. I don't want to say our academy, there was a rumor that one of the instructors told the class, get your experience here and then go somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
I hope that's a rumor or a lie, but I don't think it is.
Apparently, he was at that. There was that movie where Jim Carrey couldn't tell a lie.
Oh, yeah.
Liar.
But we promote like us right here. We're all friends. We grew up in the police department. Joe was my sergeant in my first specialized unit. We were the best of friends. We still are. Obviously, we're 30 years on and still hanging out and doing this. But we enjoyed going to work every day. And I think that's lost now in this new generation. They don't care. They don't have the fun or the camaraderie that we did.
But that's one of the paradigms that our podcast is looking to change. Too.
Right.
We're looking to make it cool again to be law enforcement and to support law enforcement. And so that's kind of our mission statement. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do, change that paradigm.
Well, I gotta admit this, guy. We did a survey back in August 2020, and we got 10,200 responses back. That's a lot of responses. 10,200 responses back. The question was this: would you recommend law enforcement as a profession to a family member? 7% said yes.
Okay. And when was that? 2020?
That was 2020. That at the height of the anti-police. We should do it again now. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm the same as you. I love going to work. I cried my last day when I was retiring.
Absolutely.
But when I run into police officers now at my own agency, they're like, "Yeah, I just can't wait. I can't wait." Well, I've said, I say this in the leadership course. We don't fire cops for doing nothing. We fire the cops to do something.
Exactly.
right.
I mean, you don't pull a guy in after 10 years and go, look, you suck. You suck.
Most of them are commanders.
You suck. Here's your badge. Here's your stripes.
Here's your stripes.
Here's your sergeant stripes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we don't. And when I got on, I was told early on in my career, I was on a couple of months, and a guy told me, remember this: they can't shove it up your ass if you're sitting on it. I didn't even know what that meant. When he told me that.
Another T-shirt.
But you see it. You see it in Chicago. I mean, I show the statistics. Chicago, Portland. When Portland shut down, when they were all going nuts and defund the police, and they made the police stop doing proactivity. This isn't a made-up stat. Their homicides went up 265%. Right. Chicago arrests went down about 50%. Their homicides went up like 60%. And the crazy thing is, the anti-cop criminologists, all these people, who actually teach in criminal justice programs, they go, well, it's all COVID. It has nothing to do with COVID. You put the handcuffs on the police. You don't throw them in jail. They're going to just keep doing it. So
100%.
Well, it's about repercussions, and you wrote an interesting article that's kind of topical right now. Is the campus protest and how the police are handling that? How have you seen that go over throughout the country?
Well, it's interesting because I got a lot of feedback on that from agencies that are dealing with this, and the thing they got is, the whole article was really about why why we have problems is there's no such thing as consequences, even with little kids. I have 14 grandkids, and I'm watching my 6 kids, or 4 of them who have kids. They all parent a different way, but they're all, at least there are consequences for what they do. And I had several guys write me and go, you hit it on the head, just expel them. Arrest the ones that are agitators, fire the professors who are doing, they're breaking rules. And then, as soon as the police come in, all the police have to do is look a little bit mean, and all hell's going to break loose. So if you actually go to our YouTube, we have that video. I think it's Moorhead College, maybe, I forget now, where the Georgia State Trooper tackles this guy and just picks him up. So.
You're hurting me! You're hurting me! Ow! 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 Help! Help!
That's a great video.
It's not good tactics. I'm telling you, it's not good tactics.
No, it's a good video.
But it sent the message.
Yeah,
It sent a good message.
Hits on that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Actually,
if you take a look at where they're cracking down, the crime doesn't happen. But throughout history, Dan Marco is a friend of mine who helped me write Street Survival. He's written a bunch of books about this. But throughout history, people love the Guardians while there's a problem. But when the problem's over, they don't want the Guardians anymore.
Right. Right.
You know?
That's the story of our lives. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at right now what's going on. I mean, you got Holocaust deniers who used to be afraid to say it. They're out there. You got people ripping what we did in World War II. Jon Stewart called Harry Truman a war criminal a few years ago for using the atom bomb. When it's in the rear view mirror, you go, why did the police have to act that way? Somebody asked me, some civilian I was doing a talk said, don't you guys know that grip on top of the shoulder where if you hit like 3 pressure points, it renders them unconscious for like 5 minutes? And I went, you mean the Vulcan nerve pinch from Star Trek?
Right.
They think we.
Spock, baby, you would have been a good policeman.
Let me tell you one more quick thing. I got a call from Netflix a couple years ago, and we did a couple Zoom meetings with them. They were talking about a series on how police train, and it never came to fruition. But I had 2 or 3 meetings with them, and the first time I talked to the woman, she says, I wanted to tell you who I am. I said, okay. She goes, I'm a female. I live in Manhattan. I have a master's degree in like social sciences or something. Okay. Why are you telling? And I'm very liberal. I said, okay. Why are you telling me this? She goes, well, all my friends are women, live in Manhattan, all have advanced degrees, and are all socially liberal. I said, okay, what's the point? She goes, because I want to tell you something. She goes, before we started investigating this, I and all my intelligent friends in Manhattan, all of us thought that every day the police go to work, they do a half hour of karate and a half hour of shooting.
Wow.
And I said, that's more than we do in a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You
people,
think
it's like de-escalation. You always hear these politicians get out and go, well, it didn't seem like they tried to de-escalate enough. But they don't even know what de-escalation means. You know what I mean? So that these unrealistic expectations are out there. You watch
Absolutely.
Denzel Washington and Liam Neeson, take a guy to the ground like with one punch, and people think that stuff's real.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Well,
Great movies, by the way.
Yeah, they are. But no resistings on camera ever look good. So
No.
it is what it is.
Well, it's a fight.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of fights.
Right. They don't look pretty.
And there's a lot of psychology behind it when them crazy people get involved.
Yeah.
People that don't want to go to jail do. I mean, when they make up their mind they don't want to go to jail, they don't want to go to. It's not like they change their mind in the middle of getting their asses kicked. They don't just like, now I'll go to jail. They keep fighting.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So and you have to train in that stuff. And for the people out there that's not policemen, and that saying is, the body won't go where the mind has never been. That is just such a true statement.
Right.
And Joe tells a good story. Joe, tell about the training that you guys are given, and then and the holster thing. I found that interesting.
Yeah, so one of the values of doing role play training where you put these officers under duress while their bosses are standing around watching. Things come flying out that you see that you know you need to have immediate correction. We have one in Brentwood. We have a double trigger holster. In other words, you got a, it's got a retention holster that requires 2 motions to get the gun out. Under duress, we had officers that literally could not get their gun out of the holster. And it wasn't just one. So it was a practice issue. It was a repetition issue. So that style training allows you to be able to identify those things. We had people that we put under duress that would not engage, would not pull the trigger when they needed to. And that was back in the city, and those people eventually ended up leaving the police department over it. So it's an interesting way to train, and it allows the commanders to be able to not only infuse things about what they should be doing, but what expectations are, what a boss's expectations are of an officer in terms of how they perform on the street. So it's an interesting. But I wanted to ask you real quick, if I could, Jim. Brighter Side of Blue doesn't like being political. This is sort of political. I'm gonna say it anyway. Progressive prosecutors have been an issue for law enforcement, and in St. Louis, it was a real issue for several years. Yeah. She's gone now, but the prosecutor that was here, all of us were literally afraid to do our jobs and allow our officers to do their jobs. So I ask you this, I say that preface with what we saw, mainly out of St. Louis officers in particular, as they came to these municipalities, was their reluctance to really, what I deemed after 40 plus years in this job, we would put them in scenarios that were absolute must shoot scenarios, and their responses were, I cannot shoot someone in the back, period. Now, in any scenario. We mimicked one in St. Louis that happened a couple of years ago where 2 officers jumped a car, wanted for a homicide, chased it into St. Louis County. The guys bail out. Guy's running with a gun in his hand, wanted for murder, just had a pursuit with him, and the officers would not shoot him. He can't get over a fence, and he turns around and shoots 2 policemen, nearly killed one, shot the other one, seriously injured the other one. I spoke personally to one of the officers involved in that at the hospital, and he said, I can't shoot people I'm not allowed to shoot someone in the back. Yeah. We see that same thing in our training over and over again with our young guys.
I don't think you can train that out of them. They're so brainwashed now. There's no way that they would shoot somebody in the back now, because unless they're shooting at somebody at the time.
And I'm curious, Jim, are you hearing and seeing that in your trainings? And how would you combat that if you were us trying to work your way through that?
Yes, we're seeing it a lot. We talk about it a lot. We show, like I showed a video the other day, and there are officers, a bunch of commanders from all over Ohio, so different jurisdictions. And when I showed one video, one of them said, yeah, we'd be indicted in our jurisdiction. Another one said, no, we'd be fine on that one. So the same thing, I know about the story down there in St. Louis with your prosecutor. Same thing happened with Baltimore and Chicago. Kim Fox, who, in my opinion, does not like the police. A lot of the police from Chicago and Cook County left Cook County to get into the suburbs where they're more pro-police, And when we asked, I forgot this part, when we asked the 80-some% of people who said I wouldn't recommend law enforcement, we said if you said you wouldn't recommend, then tell us why. And we gave about 7 or 8, and we said you can check as many of these boxes as you want. The number one reason is they don't trust their command staff and the political, functionality of where they're at. And I think 2 or 3 was going to jail.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. That just, and again, that's one of the things that our podcast, we're trying to get past all this. Obviously that's a tough one to get past, but there are so many people out there, Jim, and I think you can relate to this, is there's so many people out there that support the police. They just get overrun by the loud people that don't. And there's communities and businesses that they just love the police, and they realize that a mistake can be made here and there, but for the most part, or for the large part, very large part, is people love the police.
Oh,
take a look at I know you guys got to go, but take a look at the Harvard Harris poll that just came out, the Harvard-Harris poll. And the second most respected profession on that list was law enforcement. It was behind the military. And then if you look at Gallup polls, and I pay for Gallup all the time, the most we have dropped in the last 10 years is down to fourth. And that was right after George Floyd. And then we pop back up to 3. We're almost always, nurses are always number 1, military is like 1 or 2, and then the police are 3 or 4. So when you look at it, your own individual, I imagine Brentwood, you probably do some kind of survey every year or something.
Right.
I'm sure you're in the upper 80% range of people who respect and have positive views of your agency. I don't know how St. Louis, I really don't know if you guys even do those, but they're worth doing.
No use.
I can tell you right now, since after Michael Brown incident that we had to deal with, I've had more people want to buy my lunch, thank me for my service. When I'm in uniform, every day, if I go into a grocery store on my way home in my uniform, I have several people thank me for my service. It's, I mean, it helps because it's nice to know that the majority of people still love the police. And
Yeah, I agree with you, Jimmy, on that. In Brentwood, I would characterize the 10,000 or so people who live there, or they lean what I would say is liberal or democratic. And yet I would tell you 9 out of 10 of them support the police.
Yeah. So
they're, we're constantly a country battling each other on this issue. And it's almost as if you're a Democrat, you don't like the police, you're anti-law, and that's just not the case.
No, it's not.
Normal people, middle of the road folks,
Yes.
appreciate and recognize the challenges in law enforcement. And I think that's important for especially policemen to hear.
I really appreciate that sharing that information on those polls, because I want to end this on a positive light, because like I said, that's the goal of this podcast. Is we want the ranks to be filled. We want departments to be at full staff. We want it to be cool to be law enforcement, and we want to highlight the greatness of law enforcement. And so, Jim, your training only makes us better, and we appreciate you coming on and sharing some of those stories. And we just really appreciate it. And Chief, we appreciate you too.
Thanks, Dave.
all right. Yep, thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
See you
Thank
guys.
you guys. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Welcome back, listeners. I hope you enjoyed that.
Jim was good, wasn't he?
Jim
was very good.
he's a
I
good
told you
storyteller.
he would deliver for us, and he did. I think he's a great storyteller, and I think having him on in the future when big events happen and he can give his view of it will be priceless for us.
That'd be huge for us.
Well, and he's got that network, with all those instructors they got, and we're just looking for stories. And I'm sure they can, down in the future, they can provide us those stories, for those short stories that we're doing now and different things. And we actually stole the story vault from Jim. They have the training vault.
Yeah.
So we kind of stole it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim.
There's a street survival course in Kansas City in a couple months. I'm going to try to get the officers that work for me to go to it. Yeah.
But it just goes to show that the level of training that law enforcement goes through to try to get better and try to get it right, and constantly get better every day, and training never stops.
And then like when Jim was saying that, when it's a horrible incident, George Floyd or whatever it was, or in that particular thing, is that it sparks on more training.
Yeah.
Well, why do more training? If you're doing enough training to begin with, you never have to do more training. Everybody waits for an incident to happen before.
And then
they train.
Exactly.
And
Good point.
So,
anyway, it was good.
You know how we end every show? It's a good way to end. Well, first of all, come next on June the 3rd, Monday, and we have Joe McCullough and Becky Smith that you guys will be able to see and hear their interviews, and they were great interviews. They were two just tremendous interviews, weren't they?
Yes, tremendous.
And JJ takes a beating
like usual.
No, not usual. We love you.
No.
JJ Walken
in particular. But Joe had some good stories about the old HRTT.
He was great.
He was fun. So, as always, communities that support law enforcement are safer places to live.
Peace.